Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is 3 Cat Stitching. This is a channel where I primarily talk about the cross stitch goings on in my life. Occasionally I may talk about a few other things on the channel. I have a lot of big plans for the next month, so I'd love to talk you through the past couple of weeks of stitching and give you a little bit of an idea of what's going to be on its way to your subscription folders in the month of April. You're all welcome here. My pronouns are she, her, and I am just super excited to talk to you today about cross stitch. So as I said, it's been a couple of weeks since my last video. At my last video, I had just finished a break from school. If you don't know, I live in Southern Ontario, Canada, and I'm 30 and back in school. I don't know really why my age matters, but I am back in school for registered massage therapy, and I'm working through the program. And sometime next year, I will be able to write my registration exams, and then I will be on my way. So the last video, I had just ended a 3-week break and I was starting school again. It's currently March 23rd, 2025. And so I was a little bit worried about stitching and the possibilities of stitching while I'm in school because it's quite an intensive program. And I'm happy to report that at least currently with my school schedule as well as my work schedule, I've been able to stitch. Not every day, but quite consistently. I have quite a few projects to show you. I have 2 new starts, which is great. And I have some progress on my whips, or works in progress. So school has been going well. It was really easy to get back into the swing of things. And yeah, it's just been really nice to be back in a normal routine. But as I said, I have started a couple things, so if you don't mind, I would like to just get started. So the first thing that I started is by a designer called Riley Creates, but it's Wryle. Riley Creates or Riley Makes. It is a persuasion quote, and that's what the pattern is called. I think I'm getting better at the whole adding a photo thing, so I will add it here if I can. I thought I would be able to get this finished, but it took a little bit longer than I thought, and also my shoulder has been acting up a bit. I think because this is like a 25 count and just the nature of the color of the fabric, I have a hard time seeing it in most light, so I hold it really close to my face, and then I'm not really getting a lot of like motion through my shoulder, right? It's just very slow, tiny motions, and so it's causing me quite a bit of pain. I'm thinking about it from the lens of like what I've learned in school about um, like tendinopathy and things like that. So what it could be. I'm not diagnosing myself. I can't diagnose myself, but I've learned a whole lot more about the body and what it does, and so I'm able to kind of piece together maybe why I'm experiencing some shoulder pain. And I've kind of made the connection that it is when I stitch on like counts of fabric where I have a lot of trouble seeing, and so I end up holding in a certain way, and I'm not quite like my posture isn't good, and so I've been looking into getting maybe a frame that I could use when I sit in my stitchy spot. Anyway, all that to say, I'll show you the pattern. The quote is "half agony, half hope," which is a quote from Persuasion, which is a book that I really love. I used to be such a huge reader, but I never read Jane Austen, and then in 2023, read almost everything by Jane Austen in 1 year. So I love the quote. This is stitched again on like 25 like mushroom, 25 count mushroom, maybe Lugana. And it's stitched with the called for DMC. So as you saw, it says half agony, half hope, and then there's like a floral motif at the top and the bottom. So I have half agony, and yesterday that's kind of how I was feeling. Like a lot of things are just half agony. I don't typically feel that way. I tend to be quite a positive person, but yesterday was just one of those brain days, and felt just felt right to stop at half agony, and I got a little bit of the L for the half of the second part here. And then, yeah, I started on the floral bunch at the top there. So really loving the pattern. It doesn't fit well into Pattern Keeper, so I'm having to be very like careful when I'm stitching because I'm using my phone still, but not on Pattern Keeper because the grids aren't, I think it's a 5x5 grid instead of a 10 by 10 grid. So it's just a little bit finicky in Pattern Keeper. So it's not really working, and I just wanted to get started. Anyway, excited. Hopefully that'll be a finish soon. My next work in progress, or my next start, is Summer Squirrel by the Blue Flower. I love this pattern. I love the squirrel in a sweater that is kind of wearing a similar patterned sweater to the dress of Nara X Stitch Patterns Olivia Owl, which I finished and showed in my last video. I thought that was quite interesting that they have a very similar palette and design. But I also love that this squirrel here is wearing a helmet. It just makes me laugh because this squirrel is not wearing a helmet. This was a bit of a brave thing for me. So I am primarily an Ada stitcher, but I've accumulated a lot of like random linen because I want to start stitching on linen. I like the idea of it. And if ever at like a stitching event and there's like a up for grabs table, or on Facebook Marketplace there was somebody that was destashing a bunch of linen, and so I picked those things up with the intention to start, and then what happens is I just keep ordering Ada and stitching on Ada. And so I decided I was just gonna go for it, and this was an unmarked piece of Ada, or an unmarked linen. So I don't know who the designer is or the dyer. I don't know anything about it. But when I counted, I think it's a 32 count. And so I started stitching. Look how far I got too. I'm really proud of myself. I did a great job. And I was convincing myself that it was going to be difficult. But honestly, once you get the hang of it, it is quite easy to stitch over two. This is 1/2 on 32 count. It's not 2/2, I don't think. Nope, it's 1/2. So I'm stitching with the called for DMC. However, this border is Classic Colorworks pine needles, and I bought this because I had stitched with this floss for a round robin that I was in, and it was one of the first. Like, I don't really dabble in anything other than DMC. I have a one project, my Owl Forest pickle whip or harvest season cucumbers, where I'm using like overdyed Classic Colorworks actually. And so I had used this in a round robin, and then when I realized that this pattern called for it, along with a number of other color and cottons, I thought I would purchase this one as it is the border color. Everything else the DMC is fine for. But yeah, I'm just so proud of myself because I started a project on linen. I counted about 47 times, and every time it was either 32 or 36. So I'm just guessing that it's 32, and maybe I just overcounted all those other times. And so yeah, loving this, and I can't wait to get back to it. And yeah, it's just, I was so in my head about stitching on linen and how difficult it would be that like I didn't start for a long time. And now that I've started, I think, oh, I was so silly to assume that I wouldn't be able to stitch on linen. And you know, maybe 32, 36 is where I'm at, and that's maybe as far as I'll go. Who knows? Maybe I'll find a 40 count or something someday and stitch on that, and we'll see. But yeah, I'm just so pleased with myself to have started stitching on linen, and I think that it has opened a lot of doors for me in terms of stitching, and also it was a bit of a like prove to myself that I can do it moment. I tend to struggle a lot with that kind of thing, so being able um, to do that was really great. So now we're going to get on to my whips. I have 4 whips here to show you, so not a whole lot of progress this week, but I feel like I've been making like some steady progress on some things. I got things a little bit farther along. I was really hoping for a finish, but I didn't really get close enough. So the first whip I want to show you is Nature Walk First Snow. This is by Sprouting Lupine or Lupin. This is on the other half of the fabric, so it's the same 25 count, like mushroomy Lugana. And so this is where I'm at. I put like 250 stitches in, and most of the stitches were the white snow because there is so much of it. And so the whole top part is now done. And so as I'm filling in this bird, and there's some berries over here, I'm just going to also fill in the snow as we go through, so that way it doesn't become like a lot at the end. So I also got most of this bird filled in as well. I think I just had half of the bird's tummy before, but now it's kind of looking a little bit more like a bird. I wanted to finish this before the first day of spring, but the first day of spring was a few days ago, and I did not get it done. But that's okay. I'm not really like upset about stitching snow or anything like that just because the weather is getting nicer. In fact, here in Ontario, it is supposed to snow about 3 centimeters tonight, and then it all melt tomorrow because we're in this weird part of the season where the daytime is like above freezing, but nighttime still kind of dips below sometimes. So any sort of precipitation that we may have turns to either ice or snow overnight, and then it all goes away the next day. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. We have a lot of birds flying around here. So I live kind of quite close to a highway, and there's a family of hawks that live in one of the like tall light posts over the highway, and they've been sort of very active in terms of hunting in the past like 2 weeks. And so almost every day I feel like I see them floating around one of the grassy areas trying to find something to eat. And yeah, they keep swooping right by my window, so I keep getting distracted. Next, I put a couple of stitches into Strawberry Goose Witch. This is by Fine Frog Stitching, a pattern I think you can get through their Patreon, or it might be released sometime soon. I didn't put a lot into this one as well. I thought I was going to put some more in, but I think much like Nature Walk, it was sort of one night, and I put maybe 200 stitches in. And so I just sort of was filling in this part of the frame, and then I went back in here and I filled in some more of the greens. And I think I brought this part over here. So not a lot of work done, but I did put some work into it. And so part of my goals for the year is to at least put some stitches into my pattern keeper whips every month. So I want to continue to see progress on those, whether it's 100 stitches or 1,000 stitches, whatever it may be. I want to make sure that I am consistently picking those up and I keep track. And so that's why I only put a few stitches in this, because I was just trying to pick it up. And sometimes you just get a little bit inspired when you pick something up and it convinces you to put a lot of progress in. And so that's what I was hoping would happen, but I think with my busy week at school, it just didn't get the attention it deserves. This is on, I think, a 20 count green Ada. I'm not sure of the color, but it's just a light green. This is pretty true to the color. So hopefully I'll pick that up again. I mean, we're coming into a new month in a couple of weeks, or a week and a half. So I think I kind of reset everything, and maybe the spring will get me a bit excited. I think also, right, like this is a lot of pinks on a green whip, and then my other whip, Love Bug Sampler by Sprouting Lupin, is pinks on green fabric. So I think subconsciously I consider them quite similar. And so when I put a lot of work into one, like Love Bug Sampler, which I've done, then I think subconsciously I'm not really as interested in stitching on the other. So this is really great. I was really hoping to finish this, but it didn't happen with this whip go. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, I think this is an 18 count. It's not 20 count. That's a bit too big to be 20 count. So yeah, 18. This is also on an 18 count. This was my WhipGo call for this month. I do participate in WhipGo, which is a game, like a bingo style game by Jessie Marie Does Stuff, where you build your board at the beginning of the year, and every month she picks some numbers. And so, being the 23rd, numbers are going to be picked for April on Tuesday, which I'm very excited about. My goal for these WhipGo pieces is 500 stitches. Love Bug Sal or Love Bug Sampler has been called every month so far, but with March being its third call, it only had 3 spots on my WhipGo board. So I will have to pick this up on my own accord to stitch it, but I'm very close to a finish. All told, this month I put I think 1,100 or 1,200 stitches in. And so this is what it looks like now. So this is stitched with the Callboard DMC 2/1, again on 18 count Ada. This is a discontinued dusty green fabric. So this is pulling a little bit lighter than it is in person. It does look like a dirty, not dirty, but like a grungy kind of style green. But the light in my apartment is kind of washing it out a little bit. But anyway, I'll hold it up. So on this pattern, this time you can see where my hoop was. That's where I spent a lot of my time. I did put 22, so 202. I have to put in the 5. I have that big bug at up here to stitch. I have the bugs in here to stitch, and I need to pull this down. There's a little bit more work up here to do, and just finishing up these 2 moths. So I have to do a little bit under here and fill in those spots, and then fill in. So this looks like this one. So I just have to do the body on there, and then that one will be done. And so, and I have to put my initials in. So all the work that I put in this year, almost 1,000 stitches every month. I think January I put in 920 something. February I put in over 1,000. This month I put in over 1,000. I have 1,100 stitches left. That's all I have left of this. And to know that I can put that amount of stitches in a month is really exciting to me. I'm getting to the point where in Pattern Keeper, the number of stitches for each color seems really manageable to sort of zero out. And I find that when I notice that and I pay attention to that, and I build sort of, as I said before, the bones of the piece so that it's easy to count off of other places to get those stitches done. When that happens is when I kind of zoom in and I get like tunnel vision, and I focus in and I finish things. So we will see if that happens in April. I have a lot of plans for April, so I might not have as much stitchy time as I wanted to. It kind of just depends what I get done the rest of the month of March here. But my other whip go call for the month was Pandemic by Long Dog Sampler. And so this is a piece that I've kind of been having. I have like a love despair relationship with Pandemic by Long Dog Sampler. Sorry, there's a hair on the project that I'm trying to get off. A cat hair. And of course, it's just, there we go. This is stitched on 20 count Vintage Country Mocha with DMC 3799 and 502 are the animals. So I didn't take it out of the hoop today, but this is where I was working. Over the course of the month, I've put in about 800 stitches, which I'm really proud of. Again, as with Go, my goal is 500. But if I only put in like 800 stitches a month, that's like barely 1% that gets done. And when I tallied up my stitches for the year so far, being almost the end of March, I've barely put like 1,500 stitches in. And with a piece that has over 60, well, now I'm at 64,000 stitches left, I'm not going to get as much progress as I want to if I don't pick this up. And so I was having a bit of an issue at the beginning of the year because I had this in a Q-snap, and stitching with the Q-snap was kind of giving me a bit of grief with my shoulder, like how I talked about before. So I moved it into a hoop, and this has been really great for me. And also, as I'm stitching with it in a hoop, I'm discovering more things that kind of aren't working in the way that I set up this long-term project, right? So I have floss drops where I have a million skeins of DMC 3799. I have them all cut at certain lengths. But what I've also gathered is I cut those lengths quite long because it's monochromatic. And I figured, oh, if I just do a length, that's like 130, 140 stitches. And this is stitch 1 over 1, right? So it's not 2. So, you know, that's like a long thread that I'm like pulling and stitching through. And so what I have discovered is that I think I need smaller lengths. I get so much more done if it's like 80 or 70 stitches on like a thread, and I just am switching threads a little more often, and it also allows me to bob around a little bit more. What I've also discovered that I love doing, especially now that I'm in like this sort of phase of it, is, you know, I have a lot of things like half done. So today I might start by doing a bit more of this flower, and then I might pull this border down, and then I'll go back up here and finish some of this, and then I'll pull the border across. And I like to have multiple different things to stitch on as I go through. And so committing to like 120, 130 stitches on one area when halfway through that thread, I'm thinking, I wish I was stitching up here. So I have to go through and, well, what I've been doing is just pulling a thread from my floss drop and like cutting a big chunk off of it. And that is just how I go. But when I have a new skein that I have to put on a floss drop, I think I'm going to cut them a little bit smaller. Long-winded talk about this project, but it's a big project, and I think what is so special to me, having started it when I was still quite a young or new, not young, new stitcher, is that how I am stitching has changed probably like twice already, and I haven't, you know, I'm not very far into the project. And so I'm curious to see as I continue on how much or how else I'll change when I'm stitching. But my goal for this year is significant progress on this. I'm only at 16, maybe almost 17%, and I was really hoping to get to 50% this year. So I really have to start making a lot of progress on this as a whip if I want to see that. And so I'm having to really think about what my hang up is when I'm stitching it and make those corrections. So yeah, I'm really excited about pandemic again. I was excited about it in my last video, but I've kind of been tweaking some things even more, and I'm excited to keep stitching on it. It is called One More Time on my WIPGO board. I was kind of hoping that I would use WIPGO as like an extra 500 stitches on this pattern, but I don't think like a monthly or a weekly goal on it is good for my stitching like momentum, because school is going to ebb and flow with busyness. My work schedule is going to ebb and flow with busyness. I thought it's like 780 something stitches per like percent. And so I thought, I'll just stitch that much a week and then I'll at least get a percent a week. And if I did that for the month of, or for the year, I would have 52%, right? On top of the 13% that I had already finished. But my life is just not in a position to do that kind of regimented stitching. And also there might be weeks where the only stitching I get is like 500 or 600 stitches on something, and I want the freedom to be able to go bounce between projects. So those were my whips. I want to share with you some haul, some very, very happy mail that I got, and kind of my plan. Spring is really making me feel like I want to do some new starts. So I'm going to talk about all of that now. So I'll start with the happy mail first. I was in a round robin with Michelle, Crafty Joe, and Melissa from Shiba Designs. And we all passed along our patterns, and we got everything stitched on. And I didn't share any of that information on my like Instagram or anything. But I got my piece back from Michelle of Chinook Crafter. And this is called Bee's Knees. It's by Ink Circles. It's stitched on an 18 count called Girls Night Out. And it's stitched with a Hand Dye by Rolanda floss, like a one-of-a-kind floss, and then golden DMC color. I forget exactly what color that I picked. But, oh my gosh, look at how great that is. I'm so grateful. It's not lopsided. I just didn't, I was holding it weird. I'm so grateful for those 3 women who stitched on my piece with me. I love it. There is some very subtle variegation in the floss. It goes from like a dark blue to a light blue to a purple, which you can see in person. I wish, honestly, that there was just a little bit more light blue in the variegation, but you can still see that happens. I sent a very big skein. I think it was almost like a yard or something. And I didn't realize this would take up so much floss, but there was barely anything left. Very grateful that Michelle is very conservative with floss use, so that it got finished. But I love this. So this is stitched with 2 strands because it's an 18 count. And so I have not only like all of this extra, I cut this in half. So I have a whole other piece this big of this fabric to either stitch on or maybe pass on, because that's just a lot of pieces that would be stitched on the same thing. My goal is to make this into a pillow, so I can have just a little sweet cushion. And so I have to get started on that. This round robin experience has been incredible. I'm so, again, grateful to be able to have been a part of it. We were all very understanding of moments where things maybe weren't on schedule or things like that. But I'm so excited that everybody got their pieces back and everybody's happy with their pieces. and I'm just so happy. In my last video, I showed some frames that I picked up at the thrift store, but I also forgot to mention that I got some other stuff at the thrift store. It's not often where I am that I find a lot of cross-stitch things, which is kind of upsetting. I mean, maybe people are actually using their stash or whatnot, but what I did find was a ton of plastic canvas. So some of them are a little bit worse for wear in terms of like being a bit grungy or whatever, but I love the idea of stitching ornaments on plastic canvas, a little bit sturdier, that kind of thing. And so I'm not really upset about having a ton of this. I don't know like what count it is because it's just all together. Maybe it's like a 20 count or something. I don't know. I'll just have to stitch things up and see what they look like when I stitch on it. And then I also found this book. This is 365 Designs Cross Stitch All Through the Year by Sam Hawkins. This is American School of Needlework. This was published in 1995. So a lot of the motifs are of the era. But what really caught my eye was this goose and this little house. This bird as well caught my eye. And so the way they have it set up is for every season, right? There's specific projects. So there's like that page for spring, and then like this page for spring. Oh, maybe I should have said clown warning. Cam, should I stitch that for you? This just reminds me of Cam the Stitcher. I think maybe she'd like that. Also this bear. And so, yeah. So there's just all of these designs, and then same thing for summer. A lot of florals in summer. Oh, look at those butterflies. I thought of maybe taking a couple of these motifs, stitching them on the plastic canvas, maybe making some magnets or something. Also, I thought about, I have a lot of like waist canvas, so I was looking in the thrift store for just some like crew neck sweaters for cheap that I could just kind of stitch on and work with plastic canvas and see what that was like, or work with waist canvas and see what that was like. I didn't find any that were ones that I would wear that didn't already have something on them. So I'll keep hunting for that and see if that's a possibility in my future. But that is all I have for you today. I guess I can talk about plans because I have a new start planned. I have been filming videos like crazy. You haven't seen them yet, but I've been filming or putting videos together like crazy because I'm going to be attempting to have a video every day in April on my channel. What that looks like is me putting together compilations of patterns on specific themes that I really enjoy, not necessarily all the patterns ever on those themes, but specifically ones that I really enjoy, designers that I enjoy, a look at sort of my older whips that I don't really gravitate toward. I went through my physical patterns. I did like a stash dive. And so I have a lot kind of going on. I've been focusing so much on these videos that despite feeling like I stitched a lot, I think that's where a lot of my time went, my free time, and so I didn't stitch as much as I thought I could. But through all that, I've just had patterns on my mind. I've had designers like on my mind. And when I went through recently my sort of physical pattern stash. Really just kind of taking inventory and looking at the patterns and who I am as a stitcher, right? Like that kind of thing has really been on my mind. I came across some patterns that I had gotten from the Kitted Up swap that was put on again by Michelle and a few other people, where we would get somebody's information, their wish list, and we would kit something up for them and mail it to them. And it was just a way to either go through your own collection and kit something up for somebody, or purchase some things for them. And we were all supposed to start these projects sometime last year, and I never did. But Helen of the Diddy Stitcher was the person who got my name, and she sent me some patterns. And I was looking at Fairy Garden by Blackbird Designs. This is the Garden Club Series 11. I think this is so precious and cute. And in the spirit of doing things that I am intimidated by, in cross stitch, as I proved to myself that I could with the blue flower pattern. There are eyelets as well as Smyrna crosses in here. Two sort of, I don't ever do specialty stitches. I think I've done like 3 French knots in my life. So I thought, in the spirit of that, because this is already kitted up, I would start it and do my best and report back on. Helen sent with it, I think, a 20 count fabric that she tea dyed or coffee dyed herself. So it looks like this. It smells really nice, honestly. Some fabrics don't smell all that great. And then she did a conversion of, there's some gentle art. There's a few gentle arts that she did, and then they're gentle art, but they're also called salt shaker sampler threads by the gentle art. And so she put in quite a few of these, and she wrote down her conversion for me, so I won't have a problem. So these are the colors. And I've never stitched with the gentle art before. Like I said, I've only stitched with color and cotton. So and Roxy Flossco. So since it's spring, in the spirit of learning new things, I am going to start the fairy garden finally. And so hopefully in my next video, which is again hopefully going to be in about 2 weeks, you'll see that as a new start. So those are my whips, my starts, my plans, my acquisitions, and look forward into the future of my channel in terms of videos. If there's anything in particular that you want to see in terms of pattern compilations, or if there's a specific designer or anything like that that you think would be great for like highlighting or showcasing, please leave a comment down below. Part of the trouble of making 30 videos for the month is that I feel sometimes a bit held back by my own preferences. So I am showing a lot of the same designers because those designers all have patterns that I am really interested in, or I'm having to spend quite a bit of time looking at other designers that aren't really in my wheelhouse to make sure that there's a wide variety of certain types of patterns. For example, patterns that feel like spring or that highlight spring or whatnot. And so it's a fine line between what I like versus having patterns that might appeal to people who don't necessarily like the same things as me. And so that's been a bit of an interesting thought experiment for myself. So yeah, if you have any specific designers or anything like that that you want maybe to be highlighted, please let me know below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great couple of weeks. You'll see a video from me on April 1st, and it will not be an April Fool's video. And then I think it's the 6th or the 7th that I should be filming another Flosstube update. So I hope you guys have a great day. Again, thank you. Like, subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.